The Galtrexian High Council observed Earth from the safety of their orbital ship, the Dominus, a monstrous construct floating silently in the vastness of space. Earth, with its vibrant greens and blues, looked so primitive. Its technological signals were weak, its defenses laughable by Galtrexian standards. General Zorak, the veteran leader of the invasion fleet, stood confidently at the observation deck, his forearms crossed. His species had conquered countless planets, and Earth seemed like nothing more than a detour on their path to galactic domination. Reports suggested that humans lived in fragile ecosystems, with most of their civilizations clustered around coasts. Water dominated the surface, but Zorak considered it a non-factor. The humans seemed like a simple species, living in fragile bubbles of technology that could easily be breached. Humans rely on the land, Zorak declared, his voice reverberating through the deck. Their waters will serve as a perfect grave for their defeat. But what Zorak didn't know, what no one in the Galtrexian fleet could comprehend, was that humanity's greatest strength wasn't on the land. It was hidden deep beneath the surface. When the invasion began, Earth's surface cities fell rapidly. Galtrexian ships broke through the atmosphere with terrifying ease, bombarding capitals and major urban centers with unrelenting force. Their tactics were simple: crush human resistance by overwhelming the land with superior technology. But their arrogance blinded them to what lay beneath the planet's oceans, where humanity's last hope had been preparing for generations. On the western coast of what was once known as the United States, Admiral Claire Matthews, the commander of the secret Oceanic Defense Initiative, monitored the invasion from 2,000 feet below the Pacific. Her facility, the Deep Horizon Base, was hidden deep within the Mariana Trench, humanity's most fortified structure, buried in a place no invader would think to search. For decades, governments and scientists had pooled resources to build it in secret, anticipating that one day Earth might face a force from the stars. As Zorak's forces ravaged the land, they paid little attention to the oceans. After all, water was a barrier to most civilizations. They assumed no valuable assets could be hiding beneath it. But Earth was different. Earth was always different. "Admiral," called out Lieutenant Harris, a young officer standing by the holographic display, "Galtrexian forces are ignoring the oceans. They think it's useless to their invasion." Matthews smirked. "Perfect. Let them believe that." She turned to her crew, her voice steady but filled with resolve. "Prepare the Leviathan." The Leviathan was humanity's trump card, a massive submersible armed with experimental technology based on quantum mechanics and gravity manipulation. It was designed to operate where no alien force could reach. It could dive to unimaginable depths and was equipped with weapons that utilized the very pressures of the ocean to crush even the most resilient alien tech. As the order went out, the base roared to life. Deep-sea vessels equipped with stealth capabilities began to mobilize. The humans hadn't just hidden beneath the oceans. They had thrived there, building weapons and technology that defied alien expectations. It wasn't long before the Galtrexian scanners picked up movement in the oceans, but by then, it was too late. The first sign that something was wrong came when a Galtrexian cruiser attempted to land near the coastal waters of the Atlantic. Suddenly, without warning, the ship lost control. Its systems, designed for atmospheric flight, couldn't handle the unique gravitational forces exerted by Earth's deep ocean currents. Before the crew could react, the ship was dragged beneath the waves, disappearing into the depths. Zorak was immediately alerted. He couldn't believe it. An entire cruiser had been lost. Was it a natural disaster? Impossible. The Galtrexian Empire had never encountered a planet that could resist them in such a way. His irritation grew into fury as more reports poured in of ships being inexplicably disabled near Earth's oceans. "Send in a scout force," Zorak commanded. "I want to know what lies beneath that water." But humanity was ready for them. As the Galtrexian scouts entered the ocean, they discovered an entirely different battlefield. one where their superior technology was rendered useless. Earth's gravity, amplified by the crushing pressure of the deep sea, disabled their shields and short-circuited their advanced systems. They were trapped, vulnerable, and disoriented. Then the Leviathan struck. Like a phantom of the deep, the colossal human vessel emerged from the blackness of the ocean, unseen until it was too late. Its first strike was silent, a high-pressure wave that collapsed the nearest alien ship like a tin can. The remaining Galtrexian vessels panicked, but there was no escape. The depths were no place for creatures of the stars. Word of the losses in Earth's oceans spread quickly through the Galtrexian fleet. Zorak's confidence wavered for the first time. How could a primitive planet with such low-level technology mount an effective resistance? He had grossly underestimated them. And the humans, it seemed, had been planning for this moment all along. From the depths, Admiral Matthews watched as humanity's forces overwhelmed the alien invaders. The Leviathan led the charge, accompanied by hundreds of smaller submersibles. The Galtrexians, with their arrogance, had never considered the ocean to be a threat. But they were wrong. The ocean, Earth's greatest untapped frontier, was humanity's ultimate defense.
I swear, things stopped making sense the second Tanya's voice came through that bedroom door. It wasn't like hearing someone call you from the other room. It was wrong. Like it echoed too much for the size of our apartment. It was too perfect, almost mechanical, as if someone stitched together every word she'd ever spoken and played it back in a warped version of her voice. It sent a sharp, cold spike of fear down my spine, but I knew I had to move. I couldn't just sit there, fingers glued to the damn planchette, listening to that thing mock me. The board wasn't playing games anymore. It wanted to break me down bit by bit. I stood up, legs shaking, and stared toward the bedroom door. That voice, the one pretending to be Tanya, kept calling out, sounding sweeter and more desperate every time. "Come in, babe. Please, I need you." But every instinct I had told me something awful was waiting on the other side of that door. My heart was hammering in my chest, and my palms were slick with sweat. I thought, what if Tanya is in there? What if I leave her, and she's stuck in that room alone with whatever this thing is? And just like that, the door slowly creaked open. Not by much, just a sliver, but it was enough for me to see the dark void beyond. There was no light inside, just an unnatural blackness that seemed to suck the air out of the hallway. The voice came again, softer now, almost like a whisper right in my ear. "Come here. I'm waiting for you." I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just fear. It was the kind of paralysis you feel when you're standing too close to the edge of a cliff, knowing one wrong step will send you falling. My head told me to turn around and run, but my feet moved toward that door on their own. Something was pulling me in. I stepped inside the bedroom, and the door slammed shut behind me. The sound was deafening, like a gunshot, and I immediately knew I'd made a mistake. I reached for the doorknob, but it wouldn't budge. It was like the entire room shifted, becoming something else entirely. This wasn't our bedroom anymore. The walls were too far apart, stretching endlessly in every direction. The bed was gone. The nightstand, the lamp, Tanya's clothes. All of it had vanished, and standing there in the middle of the endless black space was Tanya, or at least something that looked like her. She was facing away from me, her long black hair hanging down over her shoulders. She stood perfectly still, like a statue. Too still. Every instinct in my body screamed that it wasn't her. "Tanya?" I whispered. My voice felt small, like it was swallowed by the darkness. She didn't move. She just stood there, with her back to me, head slightly tilted to the side, listening. Then, ever so slowly, she started to turn around. What I saw in that moment will haunt me for the rest of my life. It wasn't Tanya's face. It wasn't even human. Her eyes were gone, replaced by empty black voids that seemed to pull me in the longer I stared at them. Her mouth stretched far too wide, unnaturally wide, as if someone had cut it open from ear to ear. And worst of all, she was smiling. Not a normal smile. This was the kind of smile you'd expect to see on a predator right before it sinks its teeth into you. I froze. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. I could feel something inside me crack, like my mind was tearing at the seams, unable to comprehend what I was seeing. And then it spoke. "You should have stayed with me." The voice was a twisted mockery of Tanya's, soft, sweet, but dripping with malice. Now it's too late. It started moving toward me, slow and deliberate, its head twitching unnaturally with every step. I wanted to run, but my legs felt like they were cemented to the floor. I could only watch as it got closer and closer. Just when I thought it was about to reach me, the entire room tilted. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me, and suddenly I was falling. I woke up back in the living room, gasping for air. My heart was racing, and I was drenched in cold sweat. For a moment I thought it was over, just a nightmare. But then I saw it. The Ouija board was still there, waiting for me, and the planchette was already moving on its own. It dragged itself slowly across the board, spelling out a new message. YOUCANNOTESCAPE. Tanya was still nowhere to be found. The apartment was dead silent, except for the faint scratching sound of the planchette sliding across the board. My head was spinning and my hands were trembling uncontrollably. I wanted to scream, but there was no one left to hear me. And then I felt it. A cold breath on the back of my neck. Something was standing right behind me. I could feel its presence, tall, looming, malevolent. Every hair on my body stood on end as I heard it whisper, "She belongs to me now, and soon, so will you."
The exterminus ray, just moments from firing, collapsed in on itself as the Dominus disintegrated. In a flash, the greatest weapon in the Galtrexian Empire was gone. The Leviathan surfaced slowly, its crew watching as debris from the Galtrexian fleet fell into Earth's atmosphere like meteors. The invasion had been halted. Humanity, against all odds, had survived. Admiral Matthews stood on the deck of the Leviathan, looking out at the calm, endless ocean. The cost had been high. Cities were still in ruins and countless lives had been lost. But Earth had fought back. The ocean, which the invaders had dismissed as mere water, had become humanity's greatest ally. Lieutenant Harris approached, standing by her side. "It's over, Admiral. We did it." Matthews nodded slowly. "We did. But this is only the beginning. If the Galtrexians sent one fleet, they'll send more." Harris frowned. "Do you think we can hold out?" Matthews smiled faintly. "We've survived this long. Humanity always finds a way." The sky above was clear now, the Galtrexians gone, but the war for Earth's future was far from over. As long as humanity had the oceans, the depths would always protect them. The Galtrexians had underestimated them once, but they wouldn't make the same mistake again.